Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle. And as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session.
Hello, Taylor.
Hi, Kyndra.
Welcome to Camp Chaos. I can't believe we just said that out loud.
We're here. We have made it to the first episode, and I'm really excited. I'm also a little nervous. How are you
sure.
feeling?
I mean, I think the nerves are real. However, I will say it does feel really nice to just like sit down and be able to talk to you. So share what we believe is our Camp Chaos, and we'll soon be your Camp Chaos for all the viewers and listeners, even if it's just our family.
Hi, Jordan. No, me too. I'm ready to have honest and vulnerable conversations with you and like open up the dialogue with other people. And I'm ready to just like get into it.
And have some fun.
Yes,
right?
We need to
like
have
a break.
Some fun in our lives.
Yeah.
And not talk to toddlers all
For
day.
sure. Okay, but like first let's get into like who the hell are we? So Taylor, who the hell are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Taylor. I am the oldest of 4 kids. And I feel like that's a really interesting way to introduce yourself, but it says a lot about me. Like I am the quintessential oldest child, and my mom, like I don't know how you guys are in your family, but my mom believes in birth orders. She's like, Taylor, you are such an oldest child. Austin, you are such a baby of the family.
You for sure give the vibes of the oldest child though.
I do. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of perks to being the oldest. There's a lot of excitement. You're the first to do everything, first to go to school, first to get married, first to fall in love, whatever.
Hopefully.
No
pressure.
But then there's, which I always say, there's a lot of downsides to being the oldest. And I feel like for me, that's really what I struggled with growing up. Like it was really hard for me to be the oldest child. I think I put, and this like has nothing to do with my parents. This is like pressure that I put on myself. But I just remember being in grade school, and for some reason, the class that I was in, everyone was like a second or a third in their family.
Yeah.
And I was, out of my whole class, I was one of 2 people that was the oldest. And I felt like we just didn't know. Like my family wasn't cool because I was the oldest figuring everything out. And most of my classmates were the third, and they like had it all figured out. So I just I remember
you were fresh off the boat.
Yeah, I was fresh off the boat from kindergarten through 8th grade. It was like, okay, how do I make me and my family cool?
This is, you realize like we're getting into your childhood trauma on episode 1.
I know. Hi, I'm Taylor. Welcome to my childhood trauma.
All the pressure.
I know, but it really was. And I feel like, you know, when I was thinking about how I want to introduce myself here at Camp Chaos, I wanted to just like be honest about what I've been through. And when I think about my childhood, like that's a really big part of it for me. And it's kind of what has carried me through my life. So going back, I am the oldest of 4 kids. I am the quintessential like oldest child. Also put a ton of pressure on myself. Like I had to be perfect all the time. I had to get straight A's. I had to be the best in my sport, which I was a dancer, which I also feel like now that I'm saying it out loud, felt like I was also never enough because dancers aren't necessarily considered athletes, but I had the same schedule as an athlete. So I was always like caught in the middle. I went to private Catholic school, kindergarten through 12th grade, which I actually love. It has set an incredible foundation for my life, but I was also very sheltered. Like my kindergarten through 8th grade, 12 girls in my class.
Oh my God.
24 boys. My high school, I graduated with a class of 105 people.
So welcome to the real world, Taylor.
Yeah, no, really. But after high school, I went to USC, which you can imagine is like the shock of the century for someone like me who was so sheltered, but it was my dream school. Like there was no swaying me any other way. And I did not go to USC as a freshman. I transferred in as a sophomore. That was what I was going to do. But remember, because I'm the oldest and like I set the bar at a certain place for me, like I already felt like a failure because I wasn't in as a freshman.
Yeah, because you were.
Totally.
Like, oh my God, I failed. I got like what?
Yes.
Second year acceptance?
Second year acceptance.
I mean, not to like bring up more trauma for you, but like.
But this is what it is.
Yeah,
this
you're
is
coming
my
in
life.
like, oh, I didn't get in last year. So here I am now from community college.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I transferred into USC as a sophomore. I had an incredible experience in college. I did join a sorority, which helped shape a lot of my social experience in college. And then I joined the USC Song Girls. And that for me was like the first time where I really felt like I fit in. Like I felt like this is my shit. I'm good at this. And I felt super involved in school. Like I just, for the first time, which is like crazy to say that for the first time since ever, like I felt like myself and like I fit in.
Yeah.
As a song girl in college, which I think if you look at me from the outside and like you look at my family, you'd be like, what do you mean she doesn't feel like she fits in? But I just have never felt like I fit in growing up. And I think that was hard for me.
Yeah. And I feel like it's so funny, like how people view you from externally versus like what you actually feel internally are two polar opposite things.
Yes. And, you know, going towards the end of college graduation, it's like, well, now what the fuck do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we supposed to do now? And let me tell you, going to a university like USC, talk about pressure. Everyone who is there is doing something with their lives or comes from a family that can help them to do something with their lives.
Or comes from a family that helped buy them their degree.
100%. I know. But I was like, okay, what am I going to do post-college? And I had a lot of internship experiences where I thought I wanted to be like in entertainment, but I was going to be like a businesswoman.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work for me.
No.
That's not the life I'm trying to live. So I ended up going into financial advising. I signed with a company, like I want to say a couple months before graduation, and my dad was in finance. So it felt very safe to me. I was going to move back home. Like it was just, I was going to be happy with my bubble. Yeah. But I also knew that I was settling for a life that just felt safe and comfortable, and that probably there was more out there for me, but I was just too afraid to get it. But of course, because moms know best, she's like, you should try to do something else. Do more.
Yeah.
And at the time, Fox Sports had reached out to my song coach saying, we're having a social media contest. We'd love if any of your song girls would like to join the contest. You basically like put up a little reel and say why you want to be a Fox Sports West girl, which I was like, what is that? I don't even know what it is. Yeah. It was a social media personality to help push tune in for Fox Sports games.
Sounds cute.
Yeah. I was like, whatever. Yeah. So I got that. I won that contest. So I was doing financial advising full time, and then I was a Fox Sports West girl on the side. And like I said, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So I just like did it on the, I'm like, what am I going? Oh, you want me to go to King's hockey game? Okay, sure. No problem. So I was doing that. And then I started just like the opportunities started to come in, and you know, if you're not familiar with broadcast in general or sports broadcasting, the normal route that someone would have to take is you move to middle of nowhere. Yeah, a really small town, and you start to work from a small market into a bigger market. So I was in the LA market. And
you were like where the dreams come true. Like you've made it.
The end.
Yeah.
Yes, I was at the end. Yeah. And they started the
even
network.
though you like, sorry to say, like you didn't like work your way up for that. Like you got super lucky. Right. And also hard work and like your charm, sure, put it out there. Wonderful. But there was also some sort of aspect of like luck.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And I think it's another thing for me where it was like, I feel like I don't fit in because I feel like I didn't do what I was supposed
like you
to
didn't,
do.
I don't want to say it like you didn't earn it.
Yes.
In a
sense.
sense.
I think that I even remember like having photogs and camera people be like, you're really lucky that you're here.
Well, you probably had like an identity crisis in a sense.
I feel like, yes.
Sorry. Lay down on my
therapist.
sofa.
Yeah, I think it was an identity crisis, but it was also like, well, I'm running with this.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm lucky and I'm going.
Yeah, and I'm capable. Like
totally.
I know what I'm doing and I can figure this out. And so when the network started giving me opportunities, I ran with it. Yeah. And I realized like this was something that I wanted to do. I just never thought it was possible for me. And I think you hear that a lot about people who are in the industry or like in entertainment. It's like when that one door opens, you're
the chosen one and you better go.
Just go.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't happen to everyone. So I started as Fox Sports West girl. I ended up quitting my financial advising job because I was getting on-air opportunities. And then I quit and I was a Fox Sports West girl full time. And then they were like, hi, all the Fox Sports girls are being fired. I'm like, fabulous. So the Fox Sports Girls program was going away nationally. And it was really crazy because I thought like I was just getting started. We had just launched FS1, the new network that you all know as FS1. And then it went away. And I'm like, okay, I think I was 2.5 years post-college, no job, living at home with my parents. Please enter identity crisis number 4 in my life of what do I do now? And so I remember I like talking to my mom. At this point, I was applying for jobs in New York because I'm like, I'm just going to go somewhere. Like, I'm going to go try to do something else. But I ended up staying really, really close to my incredible boss at Fox. And he was like, you know what? We have our marketing director and our communications director are going on maternity leave. Why don't you come in and help me out? So I was just working like in marketing and communications. I wasn't doing anything on air. And then I remember being like, this is still my shot. Like, and I would watch interviews.
You have a foot in the door. It's like, let's keep going.
Door.
Yeah.
And I remember watching different interviews. I don't think I know podcasts weren't a thing at the time. And it was like, take whatever job you can.
Yeah.
Like Krista Thompson talks about it.
Say yes.
She's
say
like,
yes. Say yes.
Yes. Say yes. They want you to clean the floors at night before the studio show. 1000%. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, yes, I will do whatever it takes. It was also a good way to learn the backside of the business. And then I started inserting myself in front of the camera. I'm like, oh, this would be great for marketing and I will host it, which they were kind enough to let me do. And then
cue like the first child trauma that comes in, like, look at me.
Yeah. And then,
but would you have to be in that industry?
You do.
Yeah.
Which I am not.
No. Enough. And everybody, if you don't, every other girl is.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, we'll get into that later.
As long as you're not having to sleep with anyone to get to the top. Like,
oh God, no, absolutely not. But after that, it was this new digital role at Fox was coming out. And I'm like, this is it. Mm-hmm. This is what I've been waiting for. Because as a Fox Sports West girl, it was more just like, here's a few opportunities because our main, host can't do it. This would have been like my dream role. Yeah. So I auditioned for it and I'm thinking, oh, I have it. Like, I know everybody here. The people who are auditioning me, like, I work with you. Hi, yes, I would like to do this. This is my dream job. That's what I said. I wasn't nervous. I went in, I felt super confident. And then it got the call, like, thank you so much for auditioning. We have gone in a different direction. And that for me was a shock because that was like, oh, I'm so sure of myself. Didn't get it. And then 6 months later, it didn't work out with that girl. And my boss was like, you have a contract coming to your mailbox, which just proved to me like it is important to keep those relationships. It's important to keep trying. Like, don't give up. You never know, especially in sports broadcasting, like how you are going to get that dream role because everyone's journey is so different. That's why when people say you have to go to a small town, it's like, no, you don't. Yeah. You don't.
Look at you starting in LA. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, look at people now who just create content online and they can be picked up by a big network. So I think this was 2016. I got that contract. I started working. And that's like really when sports broadcasting took off for me. I was having a ton of exposure with our Anaheim Ducks team. I was hosting our magazine show with them. And then I had a producer who I absolutely adore, who believed in me, which as a woman in sports is kind of hard to find that because you're such like the odd man out in this world. And she started giving me opportunities and she was like, do you want to host Clippers Weekly? I'm like, yes. Clippers are huge. And I'll never forget, I was recording stand-ups. And for the first time, she was like, no, horrible. Ooh. Do it again. Ooh. Which I love because it felt like someone was invested.
Yeah, challenging you.
Yeah. And then from there, I mean, she really catapulted my career. Then I was the high school football sideline reporter. I went and auditioned for the San Diego Gulls. I was their ringside reporter. So like
a lot of things were happening for you.
A lot of things were happening for me. And then COVID hit.
I was going to say, fast forward 2020. Hello, sports are done.
Yeah. And like before that, I think I felt like things were starting to change at the network. Yeah. I don't know if it was like budget or whatever, but just things weren't the same. Like my career was going super, super, super high really quick. And then it was like kind of plateauing. So when COVID hit, I'm like, well, now what? Like sports have shut down. I was not doing really anything. I think I was filming one of our digital features in the car.
No, you're home with a lot of time on your hands, like everybody else.
And one thing I noticed in my career was that I wasn't maybe getting as many opportunities as I could because I didn't have the skill of editing or shooting on my own. I didn't know like how the camera worked. And this is part of why I felt like I didn't fit in because you would have learned that if you were a broadcast journalism major, but I wasn't. So I took the time during COVID to learn the skill of editing. And something on the side that I've always been passionate about, or like, I don't know if passion's the right word, but I just cook all the time. Used to, not anymore since having kids, but I used to cook all the time in my previous life. And I told my husband, like, why don't you film me cooking and then put it out on Instagram? And I spent 27 hours editing my first ever cooking video. 27 hours.
Taylor.
It's disgusting. Okay. That's how long it takes to figure out.
But you know what?
Premiere.
Maybe it was like a course that you were taking all within one video.
It was.
There's your education.
I was YouTubing how to cut transitions, the whole thing. So I launched Taylor's Table in 2020, and it like was also the first time for me where I thought maybe Instagram, there's something there to content creation. There's something there where I can be creative. I'm passionate about, like, it's something that I'm doing in my everyday life. It was also maybe for the first time I thought, like, is my sports career over? And then it made me reflect on sports broadcast. And I was like, damn, this is a really hard industry. And I am really proud of myself for being in it. I still am in it, and we'll get there. But like, it's one of those industries where everyone sees what you're doing. Yeah. So like everyone sees, you know, when my career was taking off, I was like, oh my God, look at her. And of course, to my fault also, I'm posting on Instagram like,
you're sharing
I'm here. And then when Taylor's quiet, it's like, what's happening over there? Yeah. So in the broadcasting industry, journalism, whatever, you know, highs and lows are open to the public.
And you're sharing it with everybody, so it's like you're extremely exposed.
And you're putting yourself out there for opinions, which is really hard. Like, do you like the way that I talk? I don't know. Don't answer that.
But no, for sure though. You're putting yourself out there for ridicule and opinions that, like, you're just trying to do your passion at this point.
I'm trying to do my passion.
Or maybe not. Like, are you even passionate about it?
Well, that's like kind of what COVID made me think. Like, I was really into this cooking and I wasn't really missing sports, but I was missing the hustle and bustle of it, of like having a job.
Yeah.
But then early 2021, I got pregnant with my son and life changed. Yeah. Like, priorities changed. In a sense, they were like, I need this job more. Like, I want to show my son that I'm worth something. And I luckily was able to go back to Fox when things started opening up. And I was doing a live hit for the Clippers at Agua Caliente Casino. And I like held Miller after with my mic. And I felt like it was a very full circle, proud mom moment.
For
like
sure.
I made it here. I was able to come back after being a mom, which I don't know why I would think that. But again, the industry that I picked, it was like, can you do this after you're a mom? Which you very much can. So actually, after that Clippers live hit, I was talking to my photographer and I'm like, I have an audition at a women's sports network. I really don't know what to expect, but I'm excited because it seems like, I don't know, being a part of a new network launch seems really exciting.
Fresh, new.
I did Clippers Agua Caliente final hit with Drew and Miller at like 9:00 at night. I woke up at 3 a.m. the next day, drove from Palm Springs to LA.
See, that will never be for me.
Audition. And same thing, didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, I got an email from the producer. Hi.
We changed our minds.
We would like to have you. So then I had joined the Women's Sports Network and I'm still with them to this day. But I think everything changed for me once I had my son. And we've talked about this separately off camera. It's like, this is my purpose in life, is being a mom. And I think I haven't realized like my purpose or my passion in life until now.
You know, it's so funny. My mom said this to me and she said it when I was pregnant and I never understood it until now. And it like could make me even cry thinking about it. But she said, having babies fills a void that you didn't know existed.
Yes.
And it's so true. Like, you had no idea you had this space in your heart and in your soul for anything in this world. And then you have children and you're like, oh, shit. Like,
here it is.
Here it is.
And that's what I feel now. It feel like I'm pretty reserved. And I feel like before maybe I was closed off and having
Which no one would ever think that of you.
I know. No one would. Well, because I like put on this front and that's And having my kids, I feel like just ripped me open and
put you back together in a weird way, huh?
And I have felt more like sure of myself. I've never felt this empowered before. It's like being a mom is what I was meant to do.
Totally.
Like, this is my calling in life. This is my job.
You're like, everything else I may like give, like, even though it's like you're giving 100%
in my job. Yes.
But it may not look like 100%, or like you're always thinking, oh, I could do more. But like, you have kids. And even though some days are easier and harder than others, but you're like, you know that this is it for you. Like,
this is it.
Yeah. These little souls were put on this earth for a reason.
And it's like, but at the same time, and I'm doing the stay-at-home mom thing, which I love, but also it was like, you need to do something about this.
Yeah.
You need to share what you feel so passionate about in motherhood. And I think I started slowly sharing on Instagram. And what I realized was like, more people connected with me about
Well, that's
being
how
a
we
mom
met. Yeah. I mean, what do you mean? Like we met on
100%.
Instagram. Yeah.
Because
I slid into your DMs.
You slid into my DMs.
Yeah.
Even people from high school that like I wasn't that close to reach out to me now.
Oh, we're at coffee the other day and this girl comes up and
Yes.
it's like, oh, we connected back again on Instagram, but like went to high school together.
Yes. Over motherhood.
Yeah.
It's just like this weird
bond.
And like you're so vulnerable.
You're part of a really
raw.
cool club now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a part of the club and I want to grow my club.
Yeah.
And I decided that like I'm going to do something that has to do with motherhood in my life.
For
I
sure.
don't know what it looks like. And I didn't know what it looked like for a long time. Even after I had Miller, I thought it was maybe sharing on Instagram and doing content creation that way. And I realized it was just getting really hard.
Yeah.
Like that life is really, really hard. And then when I had Palmer, I'm like, you know what? I think there's something that I could do where I am passionate about like broadcasts and putting together a whole show kind of thing, but with motherhood. And that's when I'm like, I want to do a podcast and I want to share about my life. And I want to talk with other moms about not everything motherhood, but this is like the
Just
core
the
of
era.
my being.
Yeah.
Yes.
This
like,
era that we're in. I mean, we're like what, 30-ish, we'll call it 30-ish. And
We're
plus
30-ish.
a couple. But like, what are we doing in this day and age where we have kids, we're starting families, changing careers, growing as individuals, but like sharing that with each other and, hopefully this amazing community that we're about to build. But I love what you said about like that motherhood is your jam, because I feel a similar way where it's like you always were looking for who you were and not always being fulfilled with whether that's relationships, jobs. And then you have these kids and you're like, I will never be alone again. Like this is just it for me. And it's like this indescribable way of just being like, I get it.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm here and I'm exactly where I was meant to be.
Totally.
Which feels really good.
Yeah.
And I know that you feel the same way
Yeah.
about motherhood, but it's not how it started for you. So.
No. And it's so funny.
Who the hell are you, Kyndra?
God, yeah, let's go there. Well, back to this whole motherhood thing, I will say, I remember when I've had my first baby, and I'm jumping way ahead, obviously. And I remember I posted something on Instagram and like I was very private. I was like, I'm not sharing too much. And do I even want to share my kids? And what is that going to look like for me? But I remember being in all my feels postpartum. And I wrote on a video of my son and I wrote, "Dear moms, like I get it." And for me, like I still get chills saying it because it was like everything that you hear of all these annoying moms that you see on Instagram of all their feelings and this and that and your mom and your grandma, like all these people. And then you have one and you're like, oh shit.
I get it.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
And I also had to tell my mom, like, I'm sorry, I get it.
I know. Yeah. Sorry, mom. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So who the hell are we? Well, I had a very much different but similar, I guess, upbringing as far as like the community that we grew up in. We both grew up in Orange County. And I was the baby out of 9. I actually don't even know if you know that.
Wait, out of 9?
I know. So my mom had 2 and my dad had 7. So my dad had 7 before he met my mom. And then my mom met him and she's like, we need children. He's like, I already have 7. The fact that my mom married somebody with 7 children, also my childhood trauma. But she's like, no, we're going to have a kid together. He goes, I'll give you 1. And the gig was up. She's like, you're going to give me 2. So she like lied and said, oh no, I'm on my cycle. I can't get pregnant. And like, there comes me, baby number 9. So I was my dad's 9th child, his baby. Yeah. So total polar opposites as far as like being the firstborn and the lastborn and what that looks like, in a blended family as well. But yeah. Okay. So who am I? My name is Kyndra. I grew up in Laguna Beach. I was on this small little reality show called the Laguna Beach. I actually think it was called Laguna Beach, The Real Orange County. That's the full title.
Let's go with that.
Let's go with it. And it's so odd even talking about this for me, Tay, and you know this, but you started talking to me about this while we were discussing episode 1. And I'm like, I don't talk about it and I haven't talked about it. And when I say I don't talk about it, like my husband and I have never even had a conversation about it. And we've been together 11 years. It's not like this is like my husband from last year. Like this is a long-term relationship. I just don't talk about it. And, I think the reason why we'll get into all of those things and those feelings, but let me kind of walk back of like what that looked like for me being a 16-year-old young girl growing up in Laguna Beach and being approached by MTV, which if you are a millennial, you know that like MTV and everything that came up. It was it. Like it was the only thing. Like I don't even know if Bravo was around back then.
Or I don't think so.
Maybe, but it was not like to our audience. It was not us. It was not MTV. But MTV, like TRL, like you went home from high school and like you were watching like TRL, which is so odd now looking back, like that we would watch TV and watch music videos. And like mind blowing. However, so there was 2 seasons before our season. So seasons 1 and 2. I think it was the second season, my girlfriend Cammie and I filmed slightly with a similar social group. And it wasn't like we were filming like we were part of the show, but we were in the same social group. So naturally, it was like there were certain scenes that we were in or in the area or at prom or, small scenes. So the producers came to know us through season 2, and then they had approached us for season 3. We had to do an interview just like everybody else. We got the call, or I got the call, I should say. I say we like collectively, but I got the call of, you're hired for season 3 and here's this like big stinking contract coming over to you and your parents because you're a 16-year-old and sign at the dotted line and give us your life for the next 9 months. So really what that looked like for us was really big shoes coming off of season 1 and season 2. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason I think where I don't talk about season 3 is because I almost feel like it didn't perform as well as season 1 and season 2. So I almost feel this like unworthiness of having any clout from it because I hate to say it was a flop, but it didn't perform the same way and our ratings weren't the same. So, which we will get into, but season 3, it was definitely more so they're going to try to falsify a narrative to create a storyline. So they really wanted Lauren Conrad's little sister, Brianna, and she was a sweet girl. We grew up in soccer together. And when I say grew up, like 4 or 5, 6, like we grew up, like Laguna is actually very small. So they really wanted her on there because of the success that her sister had from the show. She went on to do The Hills. We all know how wildly successful that was. So they needed to have her in it in order for, I actually can't speak for MTV, but I don't know why they needed her in it, but it was like, this is her little sister. She needs to be in the show.
Like maybe they thought the audience from season 1 and season 2 could feel connected to season 3
because of that. And I remember they filmed a scene and it was like so forced, which a lot of the stuff is, but it just felt so like, let us do our own thing in season 3 and stop trying to falsify this like narrative that we are in this friend group and we are going to make season 3 work. So she got hired as well, which was fine, but it was really bringing these people together that were actually, they had nothing in common. We were not in the same friend group. They hired Brianna and her 2 friends, Tessa and Raquel. And it was like nothing against these girls whatsoever, but we did not socialize that with them. We did not have a friendship with them. It was like 2 polar opposite groups. And it was like, okay, well, then we could pit them against each other. Us being, me and my girlfriend being like the mean girls, and like, we will mean girls these 2, and then these will be the nice girls. And that's how this, season 3 will go. You can't do that without, the players kind of knowing. Like, we didn't know what role are we playing until you get kind of into the middle of filming and you're like, oh shit, like, you really want me to say things about this person. You really want me to try to pretend like I don't like this person or that there's some sort of beef there. And it's so crazy. But the thing about reality TV is like they will slander you for a storyline. And going back to 2006, 2007, there was nothing for me to compare this to other than seasons 1 and seasons 2, which I will say were a little bit more true as far as storylines than ours in season 3. But again, they were trying to do a lot of control and a lot of forcing. So We, behind the scenes, I will tell you, it was kind of like the wild, wild west. Like the producers knew people were drinking, they'd get in their cars and drive. We would party with producers. We would sit there for voiceovers, which, do you know what a voiceover is?
I'm familiar with voiceover. I actually hate doing them, but yes.
Well, for sure hate doing them. And like, it's so weird for those of you that don't know what a voiceover is. Like the producers would come back to your house with a camera crew after filming and they would say, we need you to say these 3 words or this line. And you don't know what it's about. And they would fix the audio so it sounded similar to where they needed it to go. And keep in mind, like I'm a 16-year-old, 17-year-old child in my bedroom. Like, okay, sure. What do you need me to say? Yeah, I'll say that. And you keep saying it over and over again until it fits right into their narrative of what they need for the series to kind of make sense. But so there was things like voiceovers. There were, I hate to say the word manipulation, but manipulation into you have to say this in this scene for the rest of this to make sense. So we're going to sit here at this car wash and you're going to say you went through your boyfriend's voicemail because that's what we need you to say. The sun is setting. Let's go. Like, doesn't matter how hard you're going to cry. Like you're going to say this. So there was a lot of weird things that went on back then that would not fly today.
Were you just going with it because you're like, this is a cool opportunity, so I should just, or did you push
You
back?
know what? I feel like twofold. I feel like who I am, I don't want to say I'm somebody that's meek because I do think that I'm like pretty strong and tough, but I will say I think I am an empath. I was very much like, yes, I'm going to do what somebody that's older than me is telling me to do. And also it's MT fucking V.
Right.
Are you going to tell them no?
No.
No. And not to say like, oh, what's going to come from this? But just because there's a person of authority and somebody in their 40s of authority, men, women, it doesn't even actually matter of it being men. It was just people that were really big titles and a lot of power and they're controlling you in a sense. And you're doing it because you signed up for this. It's 9 months of your life. Like now reality shows, I feel like they film so fast. But for us, it was hours and hours and hours of filming that it kind of felt like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever they say. And then you're going to give pushback because you're a little teenager and like, why not? But looking back, yeah, I think it was twofold of it's MTV and also of like, sure, yes, I'll say it because you're telling me to say it.
Right. But it was a job for you.
It was a job. It was a job. And, you know, it's funny. I actually was homeschooled my last season or my last year of school. Yeah, I know. Well, and I don't think anyone would know watching the show because we never really filmed at school. But my dad got really sick and he was in the hospital for probably 4 or 5 months. And during that time, I needed to be with him. And I'm the baby out of 9. And I'm like, I'm going to be with my dad and take care of him and as much as I could. So it was important to me to be home. That being said, we were also filming at the same time. So there was things that were going on in my personal life that weren't showed on the show, which now in hindsight, I'm actually happy that they weren't. It was truly, you look at it back now, and I know it's been on Netflix since, and it's such a mind fuck of like, that was not me. That was not my life. That was not reality. I don't know those people. You know, not to sound super conceited, but I'm going to sound conceited for a second. Filming the entire season, they all said, the producers, everybody said, you're going to be the narrator of the beginning of like here previously on Laguna Beach and, you know, kind of be the voice of the show. First season was Lauren Conrad. Second season was Kristen. They picked Tessa, which, you know, no shame at all to her, but it was kind of like oh shit, like it's not going to be me. Okay, fine. And when I can only speak for looking on the outside and knowing what MTV did now, I would imagine it was kind of forced, but she put a storyline out there and said that we were friends until she got sick. So talk about slander of title. She said that we were close and then she got a disease and then I stopped being friends with her. And like now that I look back at that, Taylor, I'm like, what in the fucking fuck?
Right.
Like, first off, we were friends when we were really little in elementary school, soccer together, and yeah, get it. We were not friends in high school at all. Even middle school, not friends. For her to have to say that, I mean, so I get why the world wanted to hate me so fucking much, because like, that's awful. That's awful.
Right.
You have this debilitating disease. And to be honest with you, I can't even remember exactly what it was because I was not friends with her. There was some condition that she had. But literally the first thing I think on episode 1 or 2 was that we were no longer friends because of this disease. So yeah. Can you get why I hid?
That also sounds like a little crazy in general. I don't think you, me, really anyone that's got a small heart would not be friends with someone because they have a disease. Like it does seem a little
It's a
crazy.
stretch. Yeah.
It's a stretch.
It's a narrative that they were trying to put me in. But I will say, I think that I could never get joy from anything from season 3. And that has to do with people that were in my life at the time as well. But I always felt like it was something I should be embarrassed of and I should hide from it. And I should never find any sort of joy from it. So I didn't.
From being on the show.
Yeah. I felt like an embarrassment. God, is that so weird? Sad. Yeah. No. So like I hid. I really just kind of hid from it. I took a few opportunities after.
Well, so, okay. Rewind for 2 seconds. You film for 9 months. The show comes on. Your life changes once the show starts airing because now you're getting recognized.
You're getting recognized. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, it's weird. I think that it wasn't only because of ratings, but it was also made very clear that it's something that you should not be proud of being on the show. It's more of a humiliation. Laguna Beach, keep in mind, was a very, very small beach town, artsy town. So even when we were filming, locals would drive by and shout things out at us and say we're ruining the town. Like we were hiding even when we were filming. Granted, seasons 1 and 2 got a lot of attention, but it was also like, are we going to measure up to that? No, we did not measure up to that. They forced a storyline. They had to go to Newport Harbor, I think for season 4, they called it, because it was just not fitting. So all of that to say, I felt, I don't want to say humiliated, but I felt embarrassed by it. Like there's nothing for me to celebrate with this. There's nothing for me to be proud of. People would come up to me and be like, oh, you're a mean girl. You're such a bitch. Like you're so, I mean, it was like, what is there to be proud of? Like watch it back. My red cup in Cabo, my moments of saying like, I think like I'm losing my shoes and my morals tonight was like my famous line. And like, what am I supposed to be proud of that? So I'm embarrassed that my parents are seeing it. I'm embarrassed that my potential, people I'm going to interview with as careers are seeing it. My school, I went to, FIDM after. I was embarrassed that people are there seeing it. Like everything was just embarrassing about it. There was nothing like, oh yeah, I was on Laguna Beach. Like
that's heavy.
No. Yeah, I know it is.
Yeah.
And that's why honestly, like today, my husband's never seen an episode and like, I'm perfectly fine with that. Isn't that a weird concept though? Like I was on this show and he's never even seen it. And hopefully one day my children won't see it either.
That's not even, if they have any access to Netflix.
I know, right? So I will say it was probably 2008 and 2 of the producers approached me and my girlfriend Cammie and they said, I don't want to like, again, give myself clout. We were the stars of the show behind the scenes. Like what they put out there was garbage and what we filmed was gold. Like it was so funny. It was hilarious. Like the moments we had, the banter we had, it was just good. So 2 of the producers approached us and they said, will you film, I think it's called a sizzle reel or like something to Shop Networks. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I, again, had somebody in my life at the time that was like, you should not be doing this. And this is embarrassing. And no, put the cameras down. However, we filmed it. It was called Baby Girls and they wanted us to, this is hilarious, but like also talking about forcing how reality TV is. And I actually have an email. I should get my phone and pull it up for you. I just saw it the other day. They Shop Networks, Bravo. So Bravo was around, I guess, in 2008. And we filmed a pilot for this show called Baby Girls where they wanted us to, my mom's a children's photographer, was for 30 something years. They wanted it to be that we were taking over her business and we are interacting with the clients and taking pictures, but it's also our love lives. It's also just growing up after Laguna Beach. So we filmed a pilot. It was probably like, I don't know, a 20-minute pilot that they shopped around to networks. The writers went on strike or some strike was happening. So people were going to be buying up reality TV shows and they thought that this was like the perfect timing. And I ended up pulling the plug on it. We went to 2 meetings and then I decided like, this is not for me. And I felt like because of the Hills success and what was going on, I felt like it's again me following suit. Like, what am I doing? Like, this is not me. And I think because of what happened on season 3 and watching it back and knowing like it could have been so much better and it should have been so much better.
Right.
I'm not going to do that again. I just can't. From that moment on, it basically was a trend of how the next 10 years of my life was going to go. It was like, I want to hide. I don't want any sort of fame or any attention from this whatsoever. Like when I say like hiding my life, I went private on Instagram, and keep in mind like Instagram and Facebook were not a thing back in the day when we were even filming.
No,
but I very much was like, I want to just hide from the world and like pretend that this never happened. So I did that. I went to go work for a company, and I think I've always been a people pleaser in a sense, or
same.
Yeah, like I hate to say subservient, but I think subservient.
Yes. When reflecting on my life as well and like how I want to introduce myself, it's like I am definitely a people pleaser.
Yeah. And it's so odd because the show portrayed me as being somebody that was like a mean girl or like a badass. And I'm like, oh God, that could not be further from the truth.
I mean, I think of you as like a badass and confident.
Yes, maybe. Well, I think when you think about confidence, like what does that actually mean? But I mean, some things, yes, I feel super confident about, others not so much. But so I took this job, and I was there for 12 years. I was clearly loyal, but I will say I never ever felt passionate about what I was doing. I was good at it, and I kept getting a lot of recognition for it. So I kept taking other opportunities, and I climbed up the ranks, was there for 12 years until I had my first baby. And you know, when I said no to going back to work, it was for me like, yes, of course, I'm going to say no to going back to work. Like, as much as having a personal identity was important to me, I always felt like who I was and what I was doing, those two never really meshed well. Like, I was not supposed to be in this career that I was in. Again, I was good at it, so I did it. Similar probably to how you felt in roles. But after having Zane, my son, it was like, this is my jam. But staying at home with a baby is so hard. It's not like, oh, you get to stay home. And I'll never forget, my husband said, like, you know, you didn't have to go back to work. You got to stay home. I'm like, I'll go back to work. Like some days it was hard as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is. But I think that stay-at-home moms get such a like, oh, you're so lucky. 100% you are that you get to raise your children. However, that comes out of a price. And part of that is you're losing your identity.
100%.
And I remember we talked when I was pregnant with Zoe, and it's like, I felt like this need for, I need to do something now. Like, I don't know if it was just this girl energy, but there was something, a fire inside of me that was like, I want to get back into, whether that's sharing my life publicly. I don't really think anyone gives a shit about my life. So there is that. And I think that's always my trauma from season 3. It's like, nobody gives a shit. Like, you had shitty ratings. Wasn't that great? I mean, who are you to get any attention from this? However, it's like who that is and who I am are two very opposite things. So I think now being able to do this with you and sit down, it's like closing a chapter of like what that was and kind of setting the record straight. But then also like, this is so much fun. Like being able to sit with a girlfriend and just talk about things, have guests on, being able to talk about pop culture. I mean, having this break from life for me is like just my escape that I need.
But I think what we've learned from one another, you know, sharing previously, having conversations about this podcast before even recording now, is like, this is what we were meant to do.
Yeah.
And it just took a little bit for both of us to like figure out
a lot of it,
how to get here.
Yeah.
But like, this is it. And I think that's one of the things that makes me so excited about Camp Chaos and everything that's to come. Cause like, again, for the first time for me, it's like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to do it with you. And I'm sure people are like, wow, cool. Great to get to know you both. How the hell do you know each other?
Yeah, true. Well, actually, like, I mean, talk about Instagram. Like, I slid into your DMs today. Like, you posted something about breastfeeding, and it was like such a relatable. this is so wild because if you think about it, like here I am with all of these friends and it was some stranger that I'm following and we followed each other, but
I
never
still don't
met.
know why we
I know,
followed each
so
other.
weird. And you posted something about breastfeeding. And then I'm like, oh my God, I really needed this. And you're like, do you want to go have coffee or like something like that? And it was like, yes, like let's
Yes.
meet up. Yeah.
And that's
Very
literally
organic.
how we met was we were like, let's go get coffee. And we sat down at coffee for 4 hours and just talked about like the hardships of motherhood and what we were experiencing in postpartum. I think we were pretty early postpartum with the boys, with our firstborns. And then you and I each had separate like mom friends, I feel like, but then we started to like combine and build this community. And like, I don't know what I would do without our mom friends.
Yeah.
Like that community for me, I rely on you guys not only for like, did your toddler transition to a toddler bed like mine did? Like, are you potty training? You know, the basics, but like just to vent to each other, you don't realize how much you need other friends who are going through the same moments as you and who have been through similar trauma that you've been through.
Well, you know, what's funny. My mom said to me, because I feel like I say my mom said to me so much, but mother's always right.
Yes.
So 2 of my girlfriends moved to LA or lived in LA during COVID. My other best friend moved to Hawaii. And I remember feeling so alone. And my mom's like, just wait till you have kids and you'll find your crew. And I'm like, no, you don't get it, Mom. Like, no. And it's so true. Like having kids, it's like, this is it for me. Like you find your community, you find your friends. And I don't know if it's like you're both going through the hard parts of life. Like when do I like my husband again after having a child?
Right.
But there's just this amazing bond that you get to have when you have friends that have kids the same age and doing this together.
And I think that's, you know, when I had this idea for the podcast, you guys, I was like, oh, it's going to be very mom centric. Like because that's my everyday life. And then when
you're in it hard, mom. Yeah.
But then when we talked about it together and like what this might actually look like, of course, we're going to talk about mom things because we're moms.
For sure.
Like that's every second of our everyday. But this is just, I want everyone listening to think about the conversations that we're going to have is like, it's our life through the lens of moms.
Yeah.
Not everything we're going to talk about is going to be about moms.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to dish on pop culture. We're going to talk about all those fun things. And like, that's what this podcast is for. Yeah. And I really want this to be an open conversation between you and I think when I was coming up with the idea for a podcast, what I was lacking when I was searching for a podcast was vulnerability. Because everything that I was looking at was very like educational, which I appreciated. It was like the 40 weeks of pregnancy, mommy labor nurse, like all those things. But I just wanted like a place where I could escape. Yeah. Also hear that other people are going through hard stuff. Like you're just trying at the end of the day to not feel alone.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope people get out of Camp Chaos.
Yeah. We hope that our camp becomes your camp and that we get to do this journey with you guys because I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, well, now that we have unloaded all of our childhood trauma baggage, all the heavy stuff, let's lighten things up. Let's ask each other just like some fun questions so that people can get to know us a little bit better. Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
If you got 1 full week without your husband and without your kids, what are you doing?
Wait, without my husband and without my kids?
Yes.
Okay.
If you got a week alone.
Alone. Truly alone. I mean, probably flip the fuck out because I've never left either of my kids. So that's number 1. But then I would probably be somewhere that like you could travel that you should not bring kids. Like I would go hit all the places like fast. Probably also with my mom because, you know.
Just you want a friend.
A friend. But yeah, so I don't know, like maybe like somewhere in Europe. I don't know. Who's taking me? Are we going? Like, let's do this.
Yes.
Okay, my turn. What's one thing you miss most about your life before kids?
Oh, I actually talk about this a lot. Well, sleep. But my life not being such a schedule.
Like and I think you're such a type A scheduled person.
Oh my God, you guys, it's actually a really big flaw of mine. Like I'm such a scheduler type A, but like my day from when I wake up, it's like alarm goes off at 6:30 so I can get on the bike by 6:45 so I can get off by 7:18 so I can get in the shower so I can wake up my kids by 8 o'clock and bottles are done by 8:30.
Take a Xanax.
Literally chill. out.
Yeah.
That's what I missed before. Not that I was chill before kids.
Yeah.
But I wasn't as insane as I am now.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I need to relax a little bit. What if you are going to cook dinner for your husband?
Oh God.
What are you cooking? What's your go-to dish?
So my husband's Palestinian. This is very easy for me because I only make him one dish. No, that sounds awful, but like actually, it's called mahia and it's Egyptian jute leaves. This is going to make me sound like I'm such a cook and I'm not. But when we first started dating, he was from Chicago. I was from here. And he's like, if you could just figure out how to make this mahia, and I'm saying it wrong. So I'm really sorry to everybody that speaks Arabic. So it's like a really fast recipe that shouldn't take you more than an hour. I put so much love and detail into this. He's like, it's better than my mom's. And I'm so sorry to my mother-in-law because you never say that. Mm-hmm. But so I'll make him that. And then I will hold it over his head for the next like 4 months.
That sounds fancy.
Yeah.
You make it for me next time.
I mean, no, I don't make it for anyone unless I'm trying to get out of trouble. Okay. If you were to have another baby and you could pick the gender, boy or girl.
Honestly, I ask myself this question probably every other week.
More than you should because you can't technically pick.
Right, because I can't. It's up to God. But I don't know. I always my first instinct is a boy, but I think it's because my son Miller is my first. I'm so connected to him.
And he's so much fun right now.
My daughter's 8 months. She doesn't bring a lot to the table right now. So I say that. But my sister and I are so close. I actually don't know what I would do without her. Yeah. That I would want to give my daughter a sister.
Yeah, but then you're going to deal with the stealing clothes and sharing friends.
Fine. No, because my parents always say you girls are the hardest. Girls are the hardest. But then we always, while we're having these conversations with my parents, my sister more so than me, we're sitting at the dinner table and we ask, who's here?
Yeah.
Where are our brothers?
Yeah, where are the boys?
They're not here.
Yeah, the girls stay.
The girls stay. Yep. And that to me is really important.
The boys are here until they take a wife.
All my kids could stay with me. That'd be great.
I know.
So I don't know.
Let's talk about Middle Eastern. I'm like, can we arrange marriages? Can I pick the wives for my boy? Yes. Okay. One more question. What is the first thing you do after your kids are asleep? Do you pour wine, turn on Bravo? What's your thing?
Pour
both
wine.
At the same time?
So I actually don't turn on Bravo, which is funny because I'm a huge Bravoholic. But that's more if I have 15 minutes during the day because Drew won't watch Bravo with me. I do know some husbands do. So for him and I, it's a series.
Yeah.
And when I tell you a series has to be drama and grab my attention, I have, again, in my schedule, I have 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Before I have to turn off the TV and the sound machine is on. So if you're not grabbing me in the first 10 minutes, it's
I'm over you.
I'm over you.
Yeah.
So first thing I do when the kids go to bed is wash my face because I normally have my makeup on.
And you're going to pass out at some point watching the show.
And then turn on Netflix.
Yeah. Love that.
Okay. Is it more helpful when your husband is home or is it more work when your husband is home?
Oh, Taylor, he's my hardest child. You already know that. Get the F out of my hair. Let me do my thing as a mom. I don't need you to tell me that one kid's crying. I don't need you to tell me, I don't want to hear you on your calls. Get out of here. Get out of here. Was that way too easy for me to answer?
Yes.
So sorry.
I knew you were going to say that. Well, at least we finished on a lighter note.
Right?
But it was
talking about our husbands.
Talking about our husbands. But it was fun to share. It was fun to get vulnerable today. That was it. Episode 1.
Done.
Check. All right, you guys, please make sure you subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. And then if you could download, maybe leave a review, do all the things for us, we would so appreciate it.
Yeah. And make sure you're following us on Instagram at Camp Chaos Podcast. And also our personals, you'll find them there as well. We'll be sharing things daily and weekly. And we can't wait for you guys to come along with us.
Thank you so much for being here for episode 1. It meant so much to us. We will talk to you guys next week.